when I actually sat and I looked at it, I was like, me in alignment with my highest calling, spiritually stable and grounded and embodied, is the greatest gift I can give to anyone.
Yeah.
Right? And so perhaps maybe right now I'm leaving and going to be gone for a month. And in the grand scheme of things, right, in exchange for that, they are gifted with my higher potential.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the quantum coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. So excited to have you here, Makhosi. Welcome to the Badass Manifester podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. I'm really excited. I have to say, I'm always really interested in seeing the kinds of questions that people ask me, because like who I think people are perceiving me as is one thing, but then I always get so much insight from people's questions. So I'm really amped.
Cool. I mean, I don't have like a crazy amount planned. I just figured we would just dive in and see where this conversation takes us. I mean, we've never had a shaman on the show before, so that's definitely awesome. So yeah, you're popping our shaman virginity.
Yes. That is so appropriate that I would be the one to do that.
Totally. And I know that people, I mean, I have a definition of your definition of shamanism because I've listened to many of your episodes in the past. And what I've gathered is that shamans are initiated to work with spirit. And I'm curious who you work with in the spirit world and like how this gift opened up to you, and a little bit more on what shamanism is and what it means to be a shaman for those who are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I think it's really good to start with that, what is a shaman? Because there is so much kind of confusion, mainly because we have like a Wikipedia definition of what a
Right.
shaman is or what a shaman does, but it's like missing cultural context that actually gives you clues into what a shaman actually is. So yes, a shaman is initiated to essentially be the bridge between the physical and the non-physical realm. Um, but I will be even more specific that typically the thing that brings them all together, clumps them together, is the ability for them to have, let's say, controlled trance. Controlled trance is like that commonality where most people think that it has to do with plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
There are herbalists who work with plant medicine, and some shamans do work with plant medicine, but they don't necessarily have to. It's really more about their connection with spirit, whether that's the spirit of the plants, the spirit of ancestors, the spirit of maybe certain animals, certain gods and goddesses, so on and so forth. Um, so for myself, I work mainly now at this point ancestrally, but also with specific divinities, gods and goddesses that most people would find like in the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Um, I feel like
Cool.
I'm missing one of the questions in that like little clump of
I
questions.
know. I'm really, I'll try not to clump them all together, but no, that's beautiful. That's beautifully said. And I am so curious about the ancestor stuff, like working with ancestors. Like I'm sure that when you work with your clients, are you able to help them access their ancestors? Is that kind of how it works?
So I could, but honestly, what I've been guided to support people with in this exact time is in their own activating like their own sovereignty, which
Mm,
as a byproduct is ancestral work. So we have to first understand that there's not a separation between us and our ancestors, right? Like their DNA is in us.
mhm,
Also, our descendants' DNA is in us.
mm,
So when we choose to take on quote unquote the work, which is really stopping certain patterns, stepping into your sovereignty, so on and so forth, that actually has an effect on the energetics of your ancestors as well as your descendants. And we would perceive it as being 7 generations back, 7 generations in the future.
mm. That's so powerful. I feel very frequently like when I'm doing my work with my clients or even on myself, I can feel the shift. And I think there's a shift happening. I'm like, I think I'm really affecting my ancestors. Or I recently just had a huge breakthrough around worthiness and being unworthy of love, and how that wasn't even my belief. It was from my ancestors. And so doing that work on myself was helping them and then helping my children and my children's children and all that. So it's like I sense it, but I always question it. Like, am I really doing this? I think you're confirming we are doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for us to just, we don't have to go far from reality, right? Like, we don't even have to go super woo woo with this for you to see that if you grow up in a certain environment, it has certain effects on you, right? If you grow up with your mom maybe saying certain things to you, as a child, it's easy to like ingrain those into who you believe that you are, right?
Mm,
And it's most likely that she got those maybe from her mom, so
right.
on and so forth, right? So we don't have to even go to the energetic, like non-physical realms to see that that's that's simple. That's easy to see, and it's when you get in the practice of it, it's easy to spot how that begins to have um, a profound change on your life when you begin to break free from that paradigm or
Mm.
those patterns.
So true. So true. That has been my direct experience. Okay. So just circling back. So I know that as a shaman, from listening to you, that not everybody has that calling, right? Not everybody has the calling to become a shaman. So, how did you have that calling? Like, where did that come from within you to take you down this path of all the initiation work you've done, all the work that you've done to get to who you are, and like the work that you're doing?
Yeah, for me, my gifting started showing up as a very little child. So from the age of like 2, I was telling my mom about my last life here. I was telling her like, when I die, here's how you mummify my body, and da 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 da. Which of course freaked her out because that wasn't a topic of conversation happening in my Christian upbringing, right? Um, and I was seeing spirits tapped in to certain knowing. And I started really becoming aware of that in my early teenage years, like 12, 13. Somebody gifted me a tarot deck. I intuitively started reading people. I
Mm.
started just knowing things about people. And all of it really came to a pinnacle when I was 15. My best friend was murdered, and she appeared at the end of my bed.
Wow.
And I had this experience of her like literally being there. I'm like rubbing my eyes, pinching myself, trying
Wow.
to like make her go away because I thought I was dreaming. And then she laughed and there was no sound, but that I was like, "Oh shit, this is real." Like this is really happening.
How soon after she was murdered did she appear at your bed?
Yeah, so she was shot on a Friday, and she was still technically alive, but he shot her between the eyes, and so she was um, still on life support, and her mother had made the very difficult decision to take her off life support, and so that was at maybe I think 3 in the afternoon. This was at like 8 p.m. So this was like
Holy shit.
right after it happened. She appeared at the end of my bed, and she said to me telepathically, I just came to show you, like to let you know that that I'm okay and
Mm.
that I'm moving on. And then she left. And of course I was like floored because I had been like seeing spirits a little bit here and there, but I kept suppressing it. I used to be like, "Oh, like that's just my imagination. I That's not real." Or I would know things about people and it would come true and I'd be like, that's just coincidence. But it was that moment that I realized, oh my gosh, the non-physical realm is real. And it plunged me, I mean, between like the depression and then also that experience, I didn't really talk for like a year. I
Wow.
went from being like super outgoing, like student council, homecoming attendant, like all of that, to completely disconnecting and just like being to myself, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So, shortly after that year, I started coming out of my shell again. I got back into show choir. And then I started having weird, strange accidents happening. Like I fell off the back of a stage. It was weird. And then I started to get sick.
Mm.
And so, for people who are called to become shamans, there's typically a very specific kind of calling sickness, and it usually lasts a really long time. And part of the reason for that is it's not a punishment, but it is like this alarm that you're not in alignment with
Hmm.
who you're here to be fully. And it causes you to just keep seeking, keep seeking answers, um, or give up. I mean, there are some who are called who end up giving up because it's brutal. My bones would ache. I would be screaming in bed at night, and I was sick like that for well over a decade.
Did you go to the doctor like what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Or you knew that it was something bigger?
No, I was in and out of the doctors at the peak. Of course, eventually they were like, okay, we think that you're generating this from your mind. They
Wow.
diagnosed me with all sorts of things like schizophrenia, fibromyalgia. At one point, they thought it was cancer because I dropped like 18 pounds in a month. At the peak of everything, I was seeing 3 doctors a week, 3 different doctors trying to figure out what was going on with my body. And when I realized, like, okay, I'm seeing cancer specialist, immunologist, like a family doctor, psychologist, and psychiatrist. Like I'm seeing everybody. Obviously, this is not helping.
Right.
Um, and so that was when I really started I mean, this was over many years, but I kept searching for, okay, well, what's going on in the homeopathic realm, in the natural realm. And I started with like the physical stuff,
Hmm.
right? Like vitamins, supplements, so on and so forth. And then started getting into deeper layers of spirituality and how that can affect your physical body, so on and so forth.
So you started to tune in.
Yeah. So around 23, 24, I had an experience after my son was born. I had this insanely difficult time getting pregnant, and then I was on bed rest most of my
Mm.
pregnancy. And then when he was born, 2 days after, a voice woke me up saying, "Get up, get dressed, go to the hospital." And this is like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I get dressed and I go to the hospital, and I had developed postpartum preeclampsia. And after that, and also ended up having some incredible success in direct sales. I started asking questions of the universe out loud, right? Like I started asking, who am I? Right? What am I here for?
Hmm.
What is the purpose of all of this? Because I like had the hot husband and the baby, and I had 2 degrees and top of
And
my
you were
class,
crushing it in your business.
crushing it, and my health sucks, right? Like my health is trash. Even though I'm doing all the things, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, I'm blah 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 blah, and I started to just operate differently. So instead of having a goal of like, oh, I'm trying to achieve blank, I started looking for what are the synchronicities?
Hmm.
What is that step that's next? I don't know where this is taking me, but I'm just going to follow that. And by following that, that's how I ended up in initiation for 5 years and coming out
Whoa.
on the other side a shaman.
Unreal. Unreal. But as you were asking yourself those questions, I thought to myself, if only the whole world could just start asking themselves, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Man, what would happen? Um, why? Everyone would be shamans. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I think the thing is like it's not enough to just ask the questions. It's
Yeah.
it's so important that we have to also be willing to surrender
Mm.
to where that might take us and surrender to how people might judge us because people thought I was crazy as hell for years, right? Like they're looking like, "Oh, she's lost it."
Right. And
Um
now she's in Africa.
I mean, family freaking out about me going to Africa all those times, it was nuts. I was constantly dealing with that. And so it sounds cool to say in retrospect, but in the middle of that,
It was hard.
it was hard. Like people were telling my husband, I don't know if you should continue staying with her. She's not quite all there. Um, yeah. it's it's definitely been hard.
Was your husband like totally with you by your side the whole time? Because I think that that's a big thing for people, no matter who they are, what they're doing. If they're breaking from societal norms, starting their own thing, following spiritual gifts, that could be challenging in a marriage.
I will say there were about 2 years, especially when I first started, that things were not going well in our marriage. So I don't want to put on a front like, yes, everything was perfect the whole
Yeah.
time. And he was just, am- like, my
Amazing.
husband is amazing. He eventually came around, but it was not easy for him to, like, see me all of a sudden go very devotional. Um, there were times in my initiation where like I couldn't have sex while I'm on initiation in my initiation, or I'm sleeping on the floor, or I'm spending 2 hours a day cleansing and in meditation and all of that. Like, and I'm a mom, right? Like my
Right.
son was a
Right.
baby and a toddler while I was going through this, and he was at home with me. And I'm running a business,
Right.
so it eventually got to a point where I was just like, look, I love you. Um, and I want us to be together. And as long as you just don't get in my way, we're going to be okay. But
Hmm.
I'm doing this. And I completely meant that this was for me. And
Hmm.
I am, as a wife, as a mom, I'm giving in so many ways, but this is for me.
Yeah.
And either you can honor that or get out of my way. And I did not mean that as like a threat to him, but what I was saying is like, this is very valuable to me. This is a priority to me, and this is my boundary.
Mm. And he said,
And he said, "All right." And eventually,
it
because
was
I
all
do
right.
eventually it was all right because here's the thing is if you're actually doing the work, it's not going to take long before the people that are close to you start to see the evidence of that
Yeah.
in you, right? And so I told him, like, I feel like this is going to make me a better wife, a better mom, a better person all around, and you're going to benefit from that. And it was when he started seeing how I transformed and how that brought us closer and had me being more conscious and aware of his needs and so on and so forth, that's when he shifted to support. Because at
Mm,
first it was just like, okay, I'm just not going to bother her about this. Like, let her have her hour in the evening for meditation or whatever. But then it turned into full blown support, which I couldn't have gone to Africa if I didn't have that, right? Like,
yeah.
it would have been really difficult to do that. But it was by the embodiment piece that people hear me talk about it all the time, and I
It's
feel
the
like
embodiment.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse talking about integration and embodiment, but that's the key. Then he was like, "Oh, snap. What you're doing has some serious value to it."
I think that what you're saying is such a beautiful example for anyone who's on any spiritual awakening journey, right? And your partner just doesn't get it yet, or they're just not on board with it and they don't understand and they think that you're crazy or they think that you're woo woo. Just like Makhosi just said, if you keep doing the work and you start being the work, embodying the work, the people in your life are going to shift, just like you're healing your ancestors, right? Like just like you're automatically healing your ancestors by doing the work, you're healing the people in your life as well. And they are going to see that. So, yeah.
100%. Like, the other piece of that as well is so much like when we start to awaken, we do have this like spiritual superiority piece
Totally.
where we're like, oh my gosh, I know so much, I'm so aware of all the things,
Yes.
and I feel like everyone in my life should also know this. I feel like my partner needs to be on the same, like I've said this, so I'm talking about myself. My partner needs to be on the same path as me. How are
Yeah.
we going to make it work if we're not on the same path? And blah 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 blah
And
blah.
growing at the same rate.
And growing at the, like, no, actually, there's a lot to be said for having someone who is complementary to you, not
Mm,
the same as you. You and your partner do
okay.
not have to be on the same path at the same speed. And I'm going to tell you, especially for women, if that is your expectation of partnership, you're going to be shit out of luck because for the most part, it's going to be the women who are awakening first and kind of guiding and leading that, but we are going to do it from an embodied place, right?
Mm.
So if you're expecting, like, I have to have a partner who's on the same exact wavelength and da 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 da, good luck.
Good luck. I couldn't say it any better. Good luck. That's it.
Good luck.
Oh, I love that. The complimentary piece is so key. It's so, so, so key. And it's interesting because even though they don't quote unquote get it the way that you get it, right? Even though they're not a spiritual know-it-all like you feel like you may be in those moments, I find that my partner gets it in ways that I don't get it. And he does, like, it's just, and I'm like, whoa, you're right. Oh my God, I didn't see it like that before. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, it's very complimentary. Very
Yes.
compliment. I'm grateful for that. So, wow, cool. So, how long would you go to Africa for? Just so curious about that.
Yeah. So the shortest amount of time I was there was 1 month, and the longest was 3. So, I would be there like for large chunks of time, which is pretty like abnormal, or let's just say
Yeah.
not. I won't say abnormal, but maybe a little out of the box, for women who like have young children. It was definitely like one of the most challenging things to
Yeah.
honor, like what is in alignment for you at this moment, while also balancing our other responsibilities and our other priorities.
Yeah. Especially because so many people, and I know I had this myself, had the belief of like, I can't, in a different way, like, I can't have the business that I want and be a mom at the same time. I've broken through that. I've broken through that, even though I've also had my fair share of fertility stuff. I'm doing all that right now. But yeah, so I think that that is a paradigm that most people can't get around because they think that they actually believe they can't have it all. I know that's what it came down to for me. It was like, oh no, fundamentally, I believed that I couldn't have it all. But you somehow believed that it was possible.
I just had to challenge my own. So I tell my students and my clients, like, question everything,
Right.
including me, including me, because I'm not perfect. Also in a human body. Um, but question everything. I started questioning, like, wait, um, where did my idea of motherhood come from?
Mm,
Most of us have an idea of motherhood from, and it's like this Pleasantville 1960s,
yes.
mom in an apron, da 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 da. Or as a woman of color, there's also this other side of perceived independent motherhood, right? Like I have to do it all, right? Like I
Mm,
can't have it all, or I have to do it all. And I started examining, like, what actually is in my best interest and fully in alignment with me, and what is actually in the best interest of my child and
mm,
my husband, and so on and so forth. And when I actually sat and I looked at it, I was like, me in alignment with my highest calling, spiritually stable and grounded and embodied, is the greatest gift I can give to anyone,
yeah.
right? And so perhaps maybe right now I'm leaving and going to be gone for a month. And in the grand scheme of things, right? In exchange for that, they are gifted with my higher potential, right? My higher capacity. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened. Often I see one of our meaning women's greatest challenge to stepping into our fullest potential is that we put ourselves on the back burners thinking we're sacrificing for others, but we actually are, like, cutting out them getting access to that full potential of us.
Right. Wow. Wow. What a disservice.
Yeah.
And on a human level, was there any guilt associated when you went, or were you just like flat with it and you were like, I'm doing this and I feel embodied in this decision fully, and I'm not even gonna like consider anything else?
Of course there were, like, moments of guilt that
Yeah.
happened. Like, even when I'm completely clear, I still have, human emotion, mom guilt, like all of that. And just like, especially especially in my final initiation when I'm in South Africa, and it's brutal. It is so hard. Um and I wanted to be anywhere but there. I'm like, I want to quit. I don't want this. What am I doing? And I missed them so much. It was only the alignment and, like, being clear on that helped me to move through all of those thoughts and emotions.
Mm.
Otherwise, I would have gave up a long time ago.
Yeah. Cause as you've described it, being a shaman is not glamorous. It is not glamorous. Yeah. Would love to know like the definition of initiation for everyone listening.
Yeah, so well, the definition of initiation, if you go and you, like, Google it, it's going to have something to do around education, or the starting of a phase, or the starting of um, the next chapter in your life. And it really is that there's an educational component. But in our ancient systems, in our indigenous systems, there's different kinds of initiations for different paths.
Mm-hmm.
We here, especially if you're into, like, personal development and new age circles, we use the term initiation, um, and it's not wrong to say that sometimes we have certain experiences in our lives that are an initiation into our next level, right? It could be
Totally.
something, really challenging that goes on, and it initiates you into the next level. When I'm speaking of initiation, what I'm talking about specifically is that there are specific processes, specific rituals, specific ceremonies, um, tests, so
Hmm.
on and so forth, that are crafted in such a way to support that person's evolution into their calling. And on the flip side, it's kind of like um, almost kind of like a certifying body, right? Like when a doctor completes their education, then there's a graduation, right? Like they had to take tests, they had to they had to prove that they were operating at a minimum capacity, right? In
Right.
order to like get those credentials, right?
Mhm.
And so that is essentially the initiation
Wow.
process.
Wow. That I can't even imagine how intense some of that is, to have gone through. And I'm wondering, like, coming out of that and bringing all of that into your daily life, because you're very grounded in this human experience as well. Like, you're in the spirit world, but you're also, like you said, you're a mom, you're living your life, you're building your business, and you're like super in the spirit world. How how do you bridge that gap for yourself? Like, how do you, I don't know what the question is. I'm just curious about how you do both.
Yeah. Um how I do both. It's funny because my life is pretty regular, looking at least to most people. It would seem pretty regular, just with some um we'll call them extras, right? Just some fun little extras. And I would say the main difference of how I bridge the gap between the two is that I keep in mind from my initiation and my experience that I am spirit first.
Mm,
And so it even when I'm getting in touch with the non-physical realm, or like I'm talking to someone and I'm kind of feeling what's going on, or I get a knowing about someone, I understand that I'm here to be a human this time, right? There's a reason that I decided to take on this form, and it's a temporary thing. I will go back to being I'm also spirit, right? And so I'm always looking for how do I um, utilize that connection and create in this reality. And
yes.
so to me, it's not about escaping and going into spirit. It's actually about how do I take what I'm experiencing in spirit and use that on this plane.
Ooh, can we talk about that? Like, how,
Yeah.
like, so, because I know that you have created massive abundance for yourself and your family with the work that you do. And I know so many people listening want to do that. So it's like taking those spiritual gifts, applying them to this physical plane. What are some of the ways in which you activate? And this kind of goes into the questions that some people were asking about, like activating your DNA and like changing your DNA to like be in the most aligned state or something like that. Is Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Um, where do I want to go with this? Because there's like so many different places. It's funny that we're talking about this DNA concept because I haven't like said anything about this publicly, but I'm may or may not be working on a program around this.
Yes.
Literally called DNA.
Well,
So
see, there's everything is one.
so that's a really great example, actually, of how I do that. So as a shaman, like we are trained to kind of look at some of the more subtle things that people brush off as being um, coincidence or, you know, oh, maybe, but rather than looking for like, oh, what is the meaning of that and just chasing for the meaning, I'm looking at how do I apply that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So chasing for the meaning of something is just like trying to understand it, trying to get some like logic from it. Where I'm looking at how I can apply that is how can I actually utilize that information and implement it and
Mm-hmm.
take action on it, right? And so again, it's embodiment, integration in your life. It's there's this common thread of what I talk about all the time, but that seems to be the piece that a lot of people miss. So even if let's use an example that a lot of people would never think of. If I'm reading, let's say, mythology about the goddess Isis, which is a divinity I'm connected with, right? I'm reading a myth about Isis and how she functioned, so on and so forth. Instead of just looking for, ooh, just what does this mean? I'm looking at, okay, maybe I'm getting some insight and some realization around that, but then how do I actually apply that example in my life? How
Mm.
do I apply that in maybe my business or with my partner or with my son, so on and so forth? And that's how you begin to activate different aspects of your being is by actually utilizing them, understanding that you're multidimensional. And I call it like trying on, right? Like if you
Yes.
had um an outfit that was the energy of blank, right? Like the energy of Isis, for example, what would it be like to try that on and take action from that energy,
Mm.
right? And the more that you begin to do that, you will start to see, actually, this might not be in alignment with me, right? And that's okay. So I'm going to try on something else. I'm going to embody something else and then see if that is in alignment for me and on and on and on.
So cool. So, so cool. It's like I think of it as if I read something, like I'm reading this book. Oh my gosh, what is it called? The Mutant from Down Under. Have you ever heard
I
of
haven't
it?
heard of this.
It is a spiritual book. It's like a mystical story. And I don't usually read books like that, but there's so many messages in there. So it's like if I was to think about these messages and I'm just thinking about them, they're floating around, it's one thing. But if I take them from thinking about them to actually like embodying them, right? Like, oh, okay, this message of oneness, how am I going to embody this today? How am I going to try this on today and bring this out into the world? And then if I do that, that then in turn activates something in my DNA to elevate that aspect of myself. That is a question.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
That makes so much sense.
So here's the thing. Human beings love complexity, right?
Yeah.
We love for like we're people will come, they'll be like, Makhosi, I want the step-by-step plan with like
Yeah.
all of the da 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 da's. And I'm like, it actually is really simple. It's this, and this, right? Like, and there's not really an order to them. It's just feeling into what is the reality calling for right now. People hate
I
that.
know. I know. They're so triggered by that.
Like the amount of people, I'm sorry, I refuse to vent on this, but the amount of people who have come to me and been highly upset, they're like, why isn't your programs or why aren't your containers structured like these other ones that I've been in? And I'm like, well, perhaps there's a reason why those things weren't working for you, right?
Right.
Because perhaps there's another paradigm or another way of going about things that actually allows for flow and
Mm.
evolution. But it's so uncomfortable for people to let it be simple, for them to um, let it even be easy sometimes. Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is so easy. it's why I talk about 1% aligned action all the time. If you think about DNA, it's a really good example, actually. If you think about DNA, it only takes 1% change in DNA to create a whole different species,
Whoa.
right? So if we're talking about like quantum leaps, right? A quantum leap is simply the culmination of 1% shifts over time that have just culminated. And then, oh, looks like
This is
magic.
this is literally speaking, like this is what I believe 100%, like cuz I have a coaching certification and it's called Quantum Coaching Academy, and I teach my students that quantum shifts are simply a shift in perspective. If you can help your client have the tiniest shift, you're setting them up for quantum leaps. That's it.
Yes. Yes. And actually, and it's the opposite. So if you are in your clients focused on big, quote unquote, big results and big XYZ, you're setting them up for collapse and failure, essentially.
Mm.
Right? I've
Wow.
seen it happen so many times where someone's like, oh, I'm taking this big action and I got this big result. And then a month later, 90 days later, maybe even a year later, they've collapsed and things are not going well
It's
anymore.
hollow.
It's
It's like,
hollow.
yeah.
They didn't build the infrastructure in their being. They didn't build what I call scaffolding, which
Mm.
is those solid ways of being that create the space for your potential to be contained, right? Their energetic container can't hold it, right? Like that's why we see people, maybe they hit a 10K month, they collapse, or they
Yep.
hit $100,000, right? And they collapse. It's this it's this whole idea of like, oh, I have to like go big or go home,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
setting you up
It's
for failure.
that is, I absolutely love that. That resonates so much. And I always like look at my income trajectory from the past, and everything for me has happened very linear, right? Like, but quantum, but super quantum at the same time. So it's like quantum, but linear, where you're like, oh my gosh, wow, I doubled my income in a year. Oh my gosh, wow, I doubled it again. And then, oh, so it's just like, it can, for me, my energetics, I guess my infrastructure, my scaffolding, it needs, I don't want to put that in place like it has to happen that way, but it works really well for me to grow in that trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also open for more. So can you speak to that a little bit around just,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm curious. I want to ask you a question now.
yeah,
Um, when you look at the trajectory of like how your business has grown, for example,
yeah.
um, do you notice like small cycles or swells, almost like if you would imagine that, let's say your money is like the ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes in and there's like a high tide and then it moves out just a little bit and then it comes back in and it's like a little bit higher and then maybe it moves out a little bit, but it's never going like completely to zero.
Yeah. I maybe, yeah, maybe. It's definitely not going to zero. It's definitely not going like that far in, but I want it to go up more.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I see. What I see, one of two common patterns happening. One is that um, people have like, let's say, a really great month, and
Yeah.
then it recedes a little bit, and they start freaking out.
Okay, no, that's not me, but yes,
Yes,
I do see that too with
that
my
happens a
clients.
lot, right? And then
Yes.
what's happening is because it started to recede, they start freaking out, which then adds energy that makes it recede even more, right? Because now
More, of
they're in like
course.
this scrambling, oh my God, what's happening type of energy. Or um, we see this kind of constant grow, 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 grow. But each time there's like this grow, 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 it's requiring more energy input. And
Hmm.
eventually there's like a plateau, right? Or an upper limit is hit.
Yes.
So the other option that you can choose to tune into is that by choosing these smaller shifts on a daily basis, I mean, I shoot for daily, right? This 1%. And it's not a doing more, but it's allowing yourself to be expressed a little bit more each day.
Mm,
Whatever that expression is. And sometimes it's not even related in business that has the effect on business, right? Like
totally.
it could be your soul is saying, I belly dance for fun. Maybe it's your soul saying, um, we want to express ourselves through belly dance, right? And you allow yourself to belly dance, and it taps you in to creativity, which then shows up in your business.
I literally just texted an old guitar teacher. Okay, I'm not belly dancing, but I just texted my old guitar teacher and I was like, are you still taking on people for lessons? Because I just felt this, I felt the nudge and I just got a drum, which I'm really into. Yeah, I'm so excited about my drum. So I've been drumming and I want to do guitar. So I'm being pulled to music and I'm just that I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about.
That's it. Because we are here to express ourselves in a variety of ways, and you never know where inspiration is going to come from. It's kind of like that movie, that Disney movie Soul, which was so good.
So good.
So good. It's literally that concept. And oftentimes, because we are in a society that's so like productivity based, it's so capitalistic where your entire value is based off of how much money you make and how much you're producing,
Yeah.
that we will tune out those little voices of like starting singing lessons or starting
Mhm.
guitar or like whatever that is for you, when that just might be the very thing that
That's going
is
to take you.
expand you,
Mm.
expand your capacity.
Whoa. Yeah, because if you can expand your capacity to be creative in any outlet of your expression, like you said, that's going to ripple into all areas of your life. Just like
Yes,
you going to Africa, right? Like it rippled into all areas of your life.
yes. Oh my gosh. For some reason, what's dropping in is sex. Um,
I need to have more of it.
yes. So like literally as we're sitting here, I'm getting this talk about sex, talk about sex, talk about sex.
Okay.
Um, as women, when we deny ourselves access to our sexual energy, expression of our sexual energy in the way that it is trying to like let's call it our sexual essence, right? Like who we innately are sexually, because our sexual energy is creative energy, right? And so when we try and fit ourselves into boxes or turn things off because we think we need to be a certain way, that ends up manifesting in other ways, right?
Mm.
Like our business, like our friendships, like, our family relationships. And so there's nothing more powerful than authentic expression. It is the superpower. People come to me all the time and are like, Makhosi, you're a shaman. I want all the tools. I want all the where's the
Give me the
synarchy?
secret. Give me the
Give me the
secret.
secret. I want like what's the dance? What's the meditation? Like what's the thing? And I'm like, authenticity. Like that's it. But most people struggle with accepting who they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And so authenticity becomes a very kind of like surface level thing where, oh, as long as you express who you are on the surface or who you think is acceptable to other people, instead of fully expressing and accepting who you are.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. So, so good. So, so good. So profound. On the note of sex and creating through this vehicle of pure energy creation, expression, um, can we talk about a little bit about sex, but also the womb and why and this I feel like the womb conversation is just like so present in the world right now, and especially in the coaching world. It's like we have to work on the womb and healing the womb, and I'm working on that personally. And I've been told like get an indigenous shaman who can help you heal your womb. I'm like, okay. Um, why do you think that is so important for where we're going? And do you think it's important?
It absolutely is important, mainly because it is the portal to life, right? It is the mechanism through which human life comes through, but also it is the same mechanism through which we birth realities. And the reason why I think womb work is really important, and by the way, womb work is not my expertise. It's just well, I would say that there maybe is something to that. I was uh in the realm of selling sex toys for some years. Um, I have a little bit of mastery in this domain. Um,
That was definitely by no mistake. You were selling
for
sex
sure, there's
toys.
definitely something there. I'm still allowing that to unfold because it's there's been some interesting things, but um, we have been, especially as women. I'm not even going to say especially as women because I'm going to say men too. We've suppressed our sexuality so much that now what we're seeing is the extreme expressions and wounding, right? Like the number of women who are being sexually abused is astronomical, right? And what we're seeing is people needing more and more and more intensity as it relates to sex in order to um, even feel it because we're like that disconnected from our bodies. We're so out of body. And so when I look at what's happening in this time period, well, how do we create a new paradigm? How do we create a new reality if we're not actually allowing our creative energy to flow through? And our womb space is where that flows through. It's why I talk about like moving your hips, and I talk about twerking and like all of that to get that energy moving and get you in touch with that aspect of you, because really um, we don't want to be creating from our mind. When we create from
Mm-hmm.
our mind and what we think, we're creating, copying what we've already seen.
Mm,
But it's in our womb, in our stomach area, that's where we're actually connected with spirit and what's trying to be birthed through, right? Like we talk about gut instincts and
right.
so on and so forth. All of that resides there. But if you are suppressing it or you're out of touch with it, how are you going to be able to bring through what is for you to bring through?
Mm. It's I think it is the guide to taking you from the mental into the embodiment, because you can't think your way to clearing your womb. You can't think your way to your solar plexus being in its power. You have to be it. You have to really like go there with your fullness of who you are. Um, Something really interesting happened to me on in a mushroom ceremony where I was just laying there, and then this energy just started coming through me like this snake energy, and my hand was going like this, and my whole body, I started dancing like I've literally never danced in my entire life. And it was the medicine that I needed to start to awaken that area. And I actually had some serious back pain for like over a year in my low back. And it was totally connected to just the stagnancy that was happening there. And just everything we're talking about, it just reaffirming and confirming like, yeah, it's all about like being that, dancing, moving, feeling, breathing, expressing in all the ways. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
when I
cool.
just envision like the collective human right now, I see a lot of disconnection from like the chest down,
Totally.
right? When we breathe very shallowly and like up in the top of our lungs, when really we want to be breathing, and how we get in touch with life and into
Mhm.
alignment with life source is through like deep belly breathing, which is like breathing into your womb, right? Breathing into your stomach. That's how you get in touch with your body. It's how we can um, reset our nervous systems. It's how we can expand our capacity for holding wealth or creative energy or love. I mean, there's so much. Um, so there's a lot here that we can access just by allowing ourselves to explore. What would it be like to fully be in touch with my womb?
Mm, yeah.
And it's not always easy. Like, I
No, it's
definitely,
not. It's a journey.
yeah, I mean, even just like the way we feel about our cycles as little girls, right? That there's something to be ashamed of, that there's something, that they're dirty, that they're
Yeah.
wrong, you know? There's a lot of healing that we have to do.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess we don't have to,
We don't
but
have to, but we get to.
we get to. And I mean, I just feel like how amazing is life going to be when we are allowing ourselves to be in
Yeah.
touch with our wombs.
And I think just even conversations like this to get people thinking about something that maybe some of you listening have never even considered. Like, it's true. There could be some people listening that have never thought about their womb in that way at all, which is why I wanted to ask you about it, because it's a curiosity that can then maybe grow into doing your own research. And even just going on YouTube, if you type in womb healing meditations, there's so many things that come up. There's so much that comes up. Um,
Yes.
and I love this conversation because, as we said before, as you said before, it comes back to like this, it's all very simple, right? It's all very simple. It's all this, the simplest things are the best in life. Like, truly. One time I remember looking at this deodorant and it was just a crystal. And I was like, this deodorant is a crystal. It's one ingredient. Like, this is all we need. It's just simple. Like, why do we have 50 million toxic things in this fucking deodorant? It's a crystal. We don't even fucking need it anyway, but like,
Oh
you
my
know,
God. You know, I had this really profound realization a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still sitting with it. And I realized that, let me see if I can put it into
yeah,
words in a way that makes sense. Um, that if we understand or choose to believe that each of us has an aspect of source within us, and that we are an expression of source, so that it could get away from itself and essentially see itself,
mm,
that it does that through the language of complexity, right? So as we make things more complex, the further away from spirit it becomes, or the further away from source it becomes. And so, if we desire to return to quote unquote oneness, right, it's going to be through the language of simplicity.
mm,
It's going to be through making our lives simple, right?
yes,
It's going to be through making our health simple, through our being simple, right? It I don't know all of the implications yet that this realization has had on me, but I know like anytime that I hear truth, it's in simplicity.
100, yes.
When I hear truth, it's connected with something that's so simple that I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Of
It's such a duh. It's such a duh, right? Like,
yes." But it's the mind,
yeah.
right? The mind, which is the mechanism of this reality that wants to divide things and make it more complex, right? Um think about like how we autopsy bodies, right? And the science is constantly dividing, trying to find, well, how does this work with this, da 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 da, versus how are these all connected, and what is the simple mechanism
Mm,
of communication between them? Because source, the Tao, spirit is simple.
so simple.
It would be a revolution if we understood that.
It's like there's nothing else to say after that because it's just like, yes, just yes, everything, everything. Have you ever read the book, The Little Soul in the Sun?
I did. I actually bought
Yes.
that for my son.
I love
It,
it.
it's done so well. And
Mhm.
here's the thing is like, yeah, maybe it's not true, maybe it is. But I always look at, if I apply this, how does that affect my life? And so far, that understanding is serving me pretty well.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's kind of what you're saying as like the oneness is individuated into all this complexity. It's a completely different way of saying it, but how we're all individuations of oneness of source, and we're all God just experiencing ourselves. But really, like there's only one. Like it's just we're just in your world right now, living in it.
Yep, it's crazy.
Craziness. Oh my gosh. I could literally keep going forever with you. Thank you so much. This was such a cool, beautiful, flowy conversation. And I just appreciate your energy, your light in this world, and the work that you do, and all the beautiful souls that you touch. And I know that everyone listening to this is just downloading everything that they need for their next step on their journey. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I have to say to you, you know, it's really, really needed in this world for there to be someone representing this quantum concept in a
Cool.
way that is in integrity. And to me, in integrity is by focusing on literally the embodiment piece, and also um, that the quantum leaps happen from those tiny, seemingly tiny shifts. That's what the
Thank you.
coaching industry really needs.
I really received that. Thank you so much. It's so funny because similar to you, people will reach out to me and they're like, what kind of like wild quantum tools do you have in your coaching program? And like to me, they're all quantum because they create shifts in people. Like they're all it's yeah, but they're looking for something that's like so far out there.
You
And
know,
I'm like,
I kept having, it's like a similar experience. When I was in initiation, I kept like picking up tools, right? Like my tarot deck when I was a kid, or I picked up cowrie shells, or I picked up everything, and every single time somehow it would be taken away from me, and I would go to my ancestors and I would be like, what is going on? Why do you keep taking this from me? And every single time they would say, you are the tool, you are the tool, you're
mm,
literally, you are the tool. And that's kind of hard for me to market. I'm working on it. But the point is, it's not just about me being the tool, it's
right.
you are the tool.
You are
Getting
the
people to
tool.
understand you are the tool is just that we may choose different wands, right? Like a tarot
Mm,
deck or a meditation or whatever. We may choose those, but still the source of that, the tool is you.
yeah,
It's just a
totally.
focus point.
And I think in coaching, it's like the coach helping the client realize that they are the tool
Yes.
and that they have it. They have those tools.
Yes.
Yeah, so powerful. So good. I kind of want you to come back.
I
I
think
want
we
to
can
talk
arrange it.
more. Yeah, we'll arrange it. There's so much I want to know about ancestors and help people understand, but we will. You're awesome. Everyone go follow Makhosi at the Royal Shaman. Tell them where to find you, how to connect with you. I know you've got like your in the works of a book, new programs?
Yes. So
Everything.
my creator version is like in full bloom in this year, and I'm very supportive of her. I'm I'm working on a book. It's still like super early, but it should be ready and launched by the end of the year. Very excited about that.
Amazing.
Um, and I am also working on a new program. We'll see when that comes out, but I move real fast, so it could be coming out like as soon as this is aired. Um,
Check it out.
yes, but you can always like stay up to date by following me on Instagram at the Royal Shaman or my website, theroyalshaman.com. And hopefully soon we're going to be posting more to my YouTube channel as well, which is the Royal Shaman.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes. Get all up in there. It's so great. I love following you. I love your messages. I love when you go live. There's just so much value when you follow Makhosi. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
yeah, if you guys have any questions for her, reach out, tag us, let us know your favorite part. We covered a lot. So definitely, definitely tag us. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at Manifest with Ash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.